Greetings, beautiful viewers, this is Smitten. Welcome to How to Fail at Smite, my original Smite series where we pick up a god and poke fun at how I play so that both of us can learn from my mistakes. Reboot Episode 2, Fafnir. Before we get started, know that I don't play support like ever, but starting this match, I try a little team communication in determining my active selection. Shell for Zhang? I ask to find my ADC running off into lane without a care in the world. We'll speed through my item selection and get my stubby little legs in motion as Artemis asserts her position in lane, rushing forward unaided. As they close in on her, she's already trading shots with Freya before finding herself isolated and bearing the brunt of a 2v1 on the wrong side of the lane. Entering from the jungle, I find Artemis at half health and can't help but miss my hammer. I can, however, body block their aggression to the best of my ability, but what good does that do when your ADC decides it's time to trade shots rather than running away? All that aggression led Freya gaining an 18-second first blood. This couldn't be indicative of what we can expect for the rest of the match, could it? After 4 minutes of digging around, we're just barely behind in left lane, while the enemy support has taken to roaming the map to apply pressure, while I've decided Artemis is in need of some babysitting. While Freya did take the first blood, without the presence of her support this early in the matchup, she's not a lethal threat to Artemis, so in effect, I'm just denying my ADC of solo farm. Missing my disarm and unnecessarily subjecting myself to pulse and archers isn't doing much to contribute either. We're pretty committed to spanking this little lady while we can, but chasing her without any cooldowns available to lock her down isn't doing much. And neither is our positioning when Artemis is too far back to capitalize on the stun. Popping her ult, Freya manages to flutter away to safety. As Freya evacuates a soft breeze away from death, we decide it's best to not allow the minions to advance, but rather hold them just in range of the tower. This ensures that I take needless poke while Artemis is the only one capable of dealing any damage. Feeling useless, I take this opportunity to try to back under fire. While the start was rocky, we're 6 minutes into the game and there's only 3 kills on the board. Granted, they're all us dying, but it is unusually slow. Sitting in mid lane, I'm plagued by a sense of security and make sure to use all of my abilities to clear the wave. The emergence of Huyi isn't anything to worry about, I reckon, and I don't see Freya entering behind me on the minimap. Oh fuck, how did I get myself into this? Feeling the panic set in, I first pop Shell before wising up and hitting my ult and jumping to safety. With Shell on cooldown, I flee down the lane, suddenly without its benefit for the Zhang Kui ult that I bought the active for. As Raijin arrives on the scene for backup, the enemy team breaks off their pursuit, and my classic indecision strikes as a reverse course at the second tower. Considering how low I am on health, I really shouldn't be staying, but I can't resist being an appealing target to soak up some aggression. Thanatos takes the bait and tower dies, leading to a kill from my team that I'm responsible for. I let my team know that I'm the greatest in order to take credit as if this was actually intentional. Always remember that no one knows what's going on inside of your mind, so lie to them whenever possible when something accidentally goes your way. 8 minutes into the game, my lies have reinvigorated our team and I'm rushing to provide aid to an ongoing battle in mid lane. Aid can come in the form of mere presence as I'm still nowhere close to landing my abilities. Raijin finds himself in trouble and without my cooldowns, I'm not much more than a stubby, easily ignored distraction. As I watch Raijin teleport his way to safety, I decide I better be a forward blocker to provide for his protection, regardless of how far away he is. After senselessly soaking 2 abilities, my enemies correctly assess that they have the better of us. I watch as they move to invade the jungle, totally ignore the minimap and my isolation in pursuit to save the speed buff. It's at this moment I recognize that I may have made a mistake. Fleeing down the jungle in a panic, I don't recognize I can use my ult. Use your ult! God damn it, Smitten! Use your ult! As the enemy team picks up 2 more kills, I want to once again try to salvage the situation by asking if I save the speed buff. Daji murders my dreams by confirming the total waste. At this point in the game, the enemy team is starting to go on the warpath, and we're left playing a desperate game of catch-up. So here I am, trying to farm away while also dipping in to take unnecessary shots from Freya's pulse. Low on mana and eager to waste my reserves on missed abilities leaves me once again ineffective as my minions die. Freya takes the opportunity to look for greener pastures while I stick around to auto the lane. What I don't realize is Raijin and the enemy team are contesting oracles, and that's exactly what piqued Freya's interests. As I trundle about with no mana and limited map awareness, Freya catches up to the teamfight and picks off Raijin, triggering me to finally break off in pursuit. While what this moment really calls for is backing in a full retreat, I'm filled to the brim with unwarranted confidence and overwhelming concern for the health of my teammates. Not to mention the allure of a nearly dead Thanatos. Recognizing I'm now in the middle of the enemy team, I don't run away, but rather run through them. Winston Churchill once said, "If you're going through hell, keep going." In hindsight, don't listen to Churchill. Redeeming yourself can come in several forms, and this time I see my team embroiled in a fight at our speed buff where I can actually assist. Courageously leaping over the wall, I'm immediately overwhelmed by choices, but don't have the cooldowns available to capitalize on any of them. And this low health Hui is provoking my typical ADC response, and I totally forget about the ongoing engagement to chase him down with nothing but auto attacks to offer. Tyr reminds me that the enemies I should be focusing on are still by the speed buff, bringing me back to my senses. Arriving to find Chalk harassing Raijin, I finally land a disarm and dare him to try to pursue. I'm not much of a threat to Chalk, and he manages to scare Raijin into retreat before he himself dips off into the jungle, prompting me to pop my ult to pursue. Bearing down on Chalk with the full fury of an enraged dragon, he soaks up the damage before teleporting to his axe as Tyr jumps over him with Lawbringer, opening up a narrow escape path for the wounded opponent. Frustrated by his health regen under the rain cloud, I've got blood coming out of my eyes as I pursue him alone down solo lane. As he reaches his tower, I find myself frustrated by the obvious futility of this chase. Hesitant to march forward, I'm unaware of Thanatos hounding my Tyr at our tower, and while I watch our kill escape, Thanatos loses his life in his over-pursuit. Should've stuck with Tyr. Now in mid lane, we're beset by enemies on all sides, the tower a whisper from death, and I'm pacing indecisively in the mayhem. While we should be pulling back to stable ground, I'm not having any of it. Turning just in time to see Chalk demolish our defenses, leaving me in the middle of the mosh pit for the umpteenth time. Daji pops her ult to try to get some of the enemies under tower, only to have Hui beads out of the pull. Tyr gets a fantastic fearless on 2 of the enemies as the clusterfuck continues, with Raijin randomly using his ult as well. The impact of so much random chaos has befuddled my senses, leaving me incapable of simply walking out of an ultimate. Hi ho, and off to death I go. Let's say the game sounds cue you into the fact that the enemy team has taken down the portal demon. Let's say you're ambitious and eager for blood. What location would you select to place your team who happens to be playing from a substantial deficit in for the upcoming team fight? Obviously right in front of the portal without the presence of your entire team. It's not a bad place, as you could easily ambush opponents as they enter the teamfight through the portal. However, if your plan is to set up an ambush, it probably shouldn't include scattering like cockroaches at the slightest hint of resistance. It would also be helpful to have your ADC with your team rather than mucking about on the opposite side of the jungle. Now that the situation has decayed into a 4v5 and no indication that the uncooperative ADC has any idea of what's going on, retreat is a more viable option than attempting to trade blows. Another idea is not engaging one at a time in a narrow corridor with no readily accessible escape path. You could also consider not blowing all your ultimates when the enemy team is spreading out and not actually hitting you with anything serious. There's also knowing when it's time to break off the engagement and get to safety. Now is definitely one of those times, but I'm not having any of it. Well, at least our ADC is finally on their way over. When a teamfight goes as poorly as the last one, they've definitely got Fire Giant, and it's no time to consider defending extended towers. Knowing this, I ping my Phoenix and make my way there through the jungle. My mistake comes when I turn to toss my stun and get scooped up by Freya. From this vantage point, I can see the sharks circling and use my leap to escape their jaws as quickly as possible. My next mistake is trying to hustle on my stubby little legs rather than utilizing the damage immunity of my ultimate. At 23 minutes in, the scoreboard looks abysmal for my team, and I find myself at a lowly level 13. But does my level do anything to keep my courage in check? Of course not! Since I've already used my stun, I frantically look around for a teammate to coerce and queue up my disarming leap as it's the only cooldown I have left. Missing yet another disarm, I wobble back to the Phoenix to pace about aimlessly while Daji takes initiative by popping Powwow. Misjudging exactly how much I can withstand, I get blown up by Zhang before I can even blink. After 4 years of religiously playing Smite, I can almost smell the end of the game drawing near. Our raid Phoenix has just spawned, and I'm doing my best to push out a lane of fire minions. The only problem is, I'm all by myself. Thanatos sneaks up behind me and I jump over the curb and wind my way around a scythe. And before you know it, I have the entire team breathing down the back of my neck and get caught in a stun lock. It seems that I've learned my last lesson and pop my ult as soon as I'm able. I barrel down the lane towards my teammates with a helpless sprint and do myself a favor by returning to the fountain to heal. On my lonely trip back to the fountain, I have time to reflect on my poor decisions in the game. Where did we go wrong? Was it the 18-second first blood? Was it all my missed disarms? No time for inquiry now, I'm full health with all of my cooldowns. With 2 teammates down, the enemy team barges into our base with the thirst for kills in their eyes. I'm left with nothing else to do other than tiny specks of damage with my fire breath. This reminds the enemy team that I'm still around and get taken out for the last time this game. Usually this is the part of the video where we break down the Gods Kit, give you the ability prioritization, and a build. However, we've decided to put all of that information in a video all on its own. You will find the links to the video on screen as well as in the description. While you're down there fishing for the other video, check out the other stuff I have written in there. You can find links to my social media, community Discord, and Twitch stream. If you spotted anything in the video that I failed to cover about this role or this god, don't be afraid to let me know in the comments. Constructive criticism is the best kind of feedback for content creators, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. If you find yourself smitten for Smitten, consider dropping me a sub to get notified on my latest content. Much love and luck in your future matches. This is Smitten, and I'll catch you in the next one. Mwah!